So I don't want to make this video, but I think that by Monday I need to get in front of it. As of Monday, long-haired DeFranco will be dead. And I know some of you hearing that information, it touches your ears and you're saying, Phil, why are you being so calm about this? Why don't I hear the passion in your voice? This situation garners. We are heavily invested in your physical appearance, Philip DeFranco. I barely care about the news. I just watch daily because I want to lick your greasy face. What, you go from having the same haircut for 34 years of your life to whatever that was, and then we got a little calm bubble. And now you're just gonna take it away like it doesn't matter. Like the last 4 weeks of pure chaos that we had to deal with while you just blabbed about the news. That was fine. That doesn't matter. I am out of here. I am unsubscribing. Well, that's a valid response. And so all I can say is I'm sorry. This is a very serious situation. And here's today's show. Where we'll start today is with another edition of Which Celebrity Are People Trying to Cancel Today News with today's contestant, Chris Pratt. If you didn't see, RIP Chris Pratt was trending yesterday because there were a bunch of these tweets just flying around the internet. They appeared to be old Chris Pratt tweets. People were sharing screenshots calling the actor out. But as it turns out, some of the tweets were fake and some were real. The ones his team came out and said were fake were ones where it appeared that he said the N-word, another where he said Muslims are scary. With his reps telling TMZ, Chris never tweeted the offensive things that are being circulated today. Any suggestion that he did is not only false but also defamatory. But there were still 2 other tweets that are real and still exist on his page that were circulating and getting people riled up. Both appear to be from 2012. The first including a photo of a Bank of America pen that says made in China with Chris captioning it. I feel like somebody smarter than me can make a joke about this. With the other being about the Miss Universe pageant where he says, in a way, they all look like Miss Hungary. And if you are offended by either of those 2 things, really? No idea how the made in China Bank of America thing could be offensive in any way. And the Miss Hungary tweet feels like a comedic actor making a joke about the problematic diets of supermodels. And to me, whenever I see the stuff around Chris Pratt, there's a part of me that feels like, to a certain degree, Chris Pratt is going through like the Jennifer Lawrence thing. Going from a person that for a period of time was almost universally loved, and then all of a sudden something changed. Now with Chris Pratt, given a number of things, I have no doubt that we would be very, very opposed on a certain number of issues. But this stuff, the things that we're talking about today, in my opinion, are just incredibly stupid. The actually offensive stuff appears right now to be fake, and the other stuff, I don't think it's serious. And then, actually, because it's gonna be the last Philip DeFranco show this week until next Monday, unless something crazy happens, I'm gonna try and jam as much news as possible as quickly as possible. So this week, we learned that John Mates, the CEO of Parler, has been fired. According to Fox News, he was removed January 29th by Parler's board of directors, with Mates telling the New York Times that he believes that he was fired because of a difference in opinion with Rebecca Mercer, who is a prominent Republican donor who financially supports Parler. And according to that interview, Mates had floated the idea of restricting domestic terrorists, white supremacists, and members of QAnon from posting on the platform, with Mates adding, I got dead silence as a response, and I took that dead silence as disagreement. Then we had the Prop 22 lawsuit that we talked about a few weeks ago failing. California voters, of course, voted for it last November. It exempts app-based transportation and delivery companies from having to classify their drivers as employees. As far as the now failed lawsuit, there was a group of Uber and Lyft drivers who were backed by one of the country's largest labor unions, and they alleged that Prop 22 illegally bars them from being able to participate in the state's workers' compensation program. Also arguing that the measure violates California's constitution by stripping the state legislature of its ability to protect workers who unionize. They, of course, filed that lawsuit with the California Supreme Court, who decided yesterday not to hear that case, though, notably, they did so without prejudice, which is just their legal way of saying that this same lawsuit can be attempted in a lower court. However, at this time, it is unclear if that union backing these drivers will pursue a lower court filing, as it will likely mean a much longer legal process. Then, let's briefly talk about investment strategies, because based off of the news we've seen over the past week, it may just be good investment advice to do the opposite of David Dobrik and essentially short-term invest in whatever Elon Musk talks about. Also, to be clear, that is not advice for me, but maybe a way that you could look at certain news stories. Dobrik, because of 2 recent stories, one being that he lost a healthy 5 figures putting money into GameStop, as well as him opening up that he put $1 million into Tesla, but then actually exited before its meteoric rise, saying at that time he probably missed out on $13 million in gains, which is only made worse by the fact that it's actually even more now. And as far as Elon Musk, it just appears that he can influence crypto prices with just a single word. Right, just before midnight Pacific time last night, Musk tweeted Doge. Within a matter of an hour, the meme crypto Dogecoin soared from 4 cents to nearly 6 cents. Which, when you talk about 4 cents, 6 cents may not sound like a lot, but I mean, what you're talking about is a cryptocurrency that has about a $6 billion market cap being influenced that much seemingly from a tweet. There's probably other stuff going on. Also, if it is actually him influencing the market, it appears that there are short-term influences, and that because the pump seemed to be short-lived, with Dogecoin prices falling back down later in the day. Then, jumping from crypto and stocks to just straight business news, we should talk about Senator Amy Klobuchar. This because she was recently appointed as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, and she's introducing a bill that could lead to massive fines for big tech companies. And this bill that she's putting forth would allow the Justice Department and federal trade commissions to impose anti-competition fines of up to 15% of a company's yearly earnings, which is incredibly notable because currently the DOJ and the FTC can only charge a max of $100 million for these types of fines. Right, so you're talking about a potential exponentially increased penalty for big tech companies that make tens of billions of dollars each year. And on top of that, the bill would also force large companies to prove that any purchase of a smaller company does not violate antitrust law, which, and this was surprising to me, is actually a big change. Because right now, that burden is actually on government enforcers who need to prove that a given deal will hurt competition in order to take action against those companies. Right, so it essentially flips a lot of the initial effort and responsibility, and the bill would additionally update statutes to forbid mergers that, quote, create an appreciable risk of materially lessening competition. That, because like I mentioned a second ago, mergers are currently only barred if it's clear that they'll reduce competition, which is something that can be hard to prove in the tech world. Also, regarding big tech platforms, French President Emmanuel Macron blasted social media networks today. This over what he called their decisions to suddenly cut the mic on Donald Trump, with Axios explaining as Macron was speaking at an Atlantic Council forum, he said the decisions to ban Trump by platforms like Twitter and Facebook may have seemed sensible in the short term, but did not provide a democratic answer. Also noting that other world leaders like Germany's Angela Merkel have previously raised similar concerns. With Macron going on to say, I don't want to live in a democracy where the key decisions are decided by a private player, a private social network. I want it to be decided by a law voted by your representative, or by regulation, governance, democratically discussed and approved by democratic leaders. But then the question obviously becomes, well, what does that look like, Macron? Right, especially because the French president also said the new violence in our democracies largely linked to these social networks is now our new way of life. And then let's take a second to pay some bills and thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Vessi. You know, it is honestly very hard to find lightweight shoes that actually keep your feet warm and dry through rain, snow, mud, and Vessi definitely surprised me with these. Vessi makes 100% waterproof and snowproof sneakers that are incredibly comfortable, breathable, and actually pretty stylish. Definitely a hell of a lot better than clunky snow boots for sure. Personally, I wear both their Cityscape sneakers and their latest weekend shoe. Their Dymatex material is a dual climate knit, which keeps you cool in the summer and warm in the winter, which truly makes this the everyday sneaker, even with the upcoming wet season. And these shoes are perfect whether you're running errands, going to the gym, going to the park with the kids, or even on muddy hikes. And with the weekend shoe, you can literally just rinse them off or throw them in the washing machine. It is really that easy. They're a great gift for yourself or for a loved one, especially with the upcoming rainy season, so get them while they still have your size. You will thank me later. Just head on over to vessi.com/DeFranco or click that link down below, and if you end up missing the sale, don't worry. You'll still be able to use code DeFranco at checkout to get $25 off. Then, in lawsuit news, we should talk about Fox News facing a $2.7 billion defamation lawsuit. According to the Washington Post, Smartmatic, an election technology company, has followed through on a threat to sue the parent company of Fox News over comments made on the network suggesting that the company participated in fraudulent activities during the November 3rd presidential election. Going on to accuse Fox News of fomenting a disinformation campaign against Smartmatic, but Smartmatic saying they identified 100 false statements and implications made on Fox News airwaves, which they claim has damaged their business and future prospects. With Smartmatic directly naming Fox News personalities like Maria Bartiromo, Lou Dobbs, Janine Pirro, also including Fox News guests like Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani. And as far as Fox News, they defended themselves, saying in response to this lawsuit, they are committed to providing the full context of every story with in-depth reporting and clear opinion, and adding, we are proud of our 2020 election coverage and will vigorously defend this meritless lawsuit in court. Then, in kind of a good news, concerning news situation, let's talk about COVID. Reportedly, the rate of vaccinations in the United States is accelerating around the world. The number of people who say they're willing to get the coronavirus vaccine is on the rise. Also, in the States, over the last week, it appears that coronavirus infections, deaths, and hospitalizations have been falling, but you have experts showing concern because of this weekend. This weekend, if you don't know, am I legally allowed to say what it is? There's the big game. The game where a bunch of guys wearing different color outfits run into each other, they throw the thing. They also catch the thing. There's also one special guy on each team that kicks the thing. And 2 different teams will be deciding who's the best at this thing this weekend. Nailed it. Sports! And specifically around this event, the reason for the concern isn't actually the game itself, right? In Florida, it's being reported that the NFL will be hosting fewer than 25,000 fans, which is a record low. But instead, the concern is actually small gatherings of people going inside and watching the game together, which there's a meaningful percentage who have been polled saying they plan to do this. And then when you pair that with data like in December, for example, New York announced that its contact tracing data showed that 70% of new COVID-19 cases originated from households and small gatherings. So that's why we've seen many experts preaching caution, many saying don't do anything at all, just stay home, others trying to offer solutions like do something outside, wear a mask, bring your own snack. But ultimately, kind of like we did around Thanksgiving and around Christmas, we're gonna have to wait and see what people end up actually doing. And then we should definitely talk about the Canadian government now officially labeling the Proud Boys as a terrorist organization. Notably, this makes them the first country to do so, with the government designating the group along with 12 others that will now be added to a list that includes ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And in the official listing for the Proud Boys, the Canadian government described the group as a neo-fascist organization that has openly encouraged, planned, and conducted violent activities against those they perceived to be opposed to their ideology and political beliefs. And very significantly, the government also explicitly states that the group played a pivotal role in the insurrection at the US Capitol, and adding, leaders of the group planned their participation by setting out objectives, issuing instructions, and directing members during the insurrection. But then also noting that the leader of the group was arrested 2 days before the riot as part of an effort by law enforcement to apprehend individuals who were planning to travel to the DC area with intentions to cause violence. But also, it's not just the leader of that group that has faced charges for his role in the insurrection. According to reports so far, at least 11 people with ties to the Proud Boys have been hit with federal charges from the storming of the Capitol. In fact, just yesterday, the Department of Justice announced that it had arrested and charged another member of the group with obstructing an official proceeding, aiding and abetting, and violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, among other things. Also, the same day, the DOJ announced that a grand jury had handed down new charges against another member of the group for conspiring to obstruct the certification of the Electoral College. But despite the continued arrests and indictments, the chairman of the Proud Boys condemned Canada's designation as politically motivated, saying there is no basis for it, it's infringement of free speech rights. All the Canadian Proud Boys have ever done is go to rallies. They used what happened at the Capitol to push for this. But senior government officials have explicitly said their choice was not politically motivated, but rather a legal decision based on mounting evidence and intelligence. In fact, while speaking to reporters yesterday, Public Safety Minister Bill Blair said that there was evidence that the Proud Boys posed a security threat to Canada, citing a serious and concerning escalation to violence following the US election. Now, as for what this designation means, there are actual consequences beyond it just being symbolic. According to reports, police can now seize the property belonging to the group, or its members and banks can seize their assets. And among other things, group members may also be denied entry into Canada. And as far as the US response to this, after yesterday's designation, a White House spokesperson said that the government was already conducting its own review and would wait before making any decisions. Though, of note there, while you had the former president saying things in the past like stand back and stand by, the Proud Boys have already been designated by the FBI as an extremist group with ties to white nationalism since back in 2018. Then, let's talk about that $1,400 that Joe Biden owes some of y'all. That's personally my favorite way to put it. Where's the money, Joe? So the news there. Yesterday, the House took the first steps in moving forward with President Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus plan. In a vote that, disappointingly, was mostly along party lines, the members adopted a budget blueprint that will lay the groundwork for Democrats to push the package through without Republican support. While many Republicans have criticized this move, Democrats appear to be unified around Biden's go big or go home approach, or seemingly being way more inclined to just pass a big bill and immediately deliver much needed aid to the American people, rather than draw out the process by haggling with Republicans, who so far floated a counterproposal that is worth less than a third of Biden's plan. Though, here a thing to note, according to reports, while Biden told House and Senate Democrats in private calls yesterday that he would not shrink the overall size of the bill, he reportedly did say that he is open to negotiating some parts of it. For example, part of the Republican counterproposal includes $1,000 stimulus checks for Americans who make under $40,000 a year, as well as $500 for each dependent. That being proposed by Republicans as an alternative to Biden's plan of $1,400 checks for Americans who make under $75,000 and another $1,400 for dependents. And while Biden has said that he will not falter on the amount here, a White House spokesperson did say Tuesday that Biden was open to narrowing the eligibility. And while no final plan has been released, according to reports, the latest proposal Democrats are considering would send $1,400 payments to individuals who earn $50,000 or less and heads of households earning $75,000 or less. Right? Meaning that a single parent or other unmarried adults who have dependents would still get the full amount even if they make $75,000. Additionally, like the last rounds of direct payments, people who make more than that would still be eligible for lower checks as long as they fall under whatever income cap the package sets for phase-outs. With another key thing here being people familiar with the negotiations have said that adult dependents will also qualify for stimulus checks, which is a big deal because during the last two rounds, people over the age of 17 could not be claimed as dependent, which meant parents who had kids in high school and college, they couldn't get the extra child stimulus payments, but the kids themselves also couldn't get their own individual checks. So with this, or really anything else that stuck out to you today, I'd love to know your thoughts in those comments down below, because this is the end of the show. As always, thanks for being a part of my daily dives in the news. Subscribe and like and all the good stuff. 2021 is our year, and it would not be the same without you. But of course, as always, I love your faces, and you've just been filled in with news that matters for people that care. I'll see you next time.